This channel is part of the History Hit network. Stick around to find out more.
For thousands of years, before massive ditches like this one had been dug, the only way that people could walk around in the boggy marshlands of the Sommerset levels was on wooden trackways. And we're going to try and find one of these ancient timber tracks, which is supposed to be buried somewhere in this rather large field underneath all this peat. And not only that, but we've set ourselves the challenge of trying to build a trackway of our own. And we've got just 3 days to do it. '62, '63, '64, '65, '66, '67, '68, '69, '70.
Right, Tony, so that's your 70 places from the southwest corner of this field, which means that according to the excavation report of 1926, you're standing where a chap called Harold St George Gray discovered the remains of the trackway in this position. We've got St George Gray's own annotated copy of the map of the site. So you walked paced, in fact, from the corner of the field there into this point here. And this shows exactly where he reckons, the trackway was discovered. Because that's right, isn't it, Richard?
That's right. I mean, the 210-foot measurement is fairly accurate, but this is showing us how far out from the ditch it is, for which we don't have any measurement at all.
Oh, there's a pretty arbitrary little line, though. We can't just rely on that.
Oh, come on, Tony. What are we talking, 1926? The fact that he bothered to put it...
They weren't brain dead in 1926.
Yeah, they didn't usually bother to write it down, though. You know, whenever you're unsure, if you notice, your voice goes up. Well, I'm just being emphatic. You see?
The nearby nature reserve gives us some idea of what the Sommerset levels must have looked like in prehistoric times. This is how the levels look today, and this is the position I paced out as the site of the excavation in 1926. And based on the evidence discovered here, and more wooden piles found here in 1939, the theory is that a prehistoric trackway crossed the marsh in this direction, providing a route between these two areas of higher dry ground.
They've done some geophysics.
Right.
They haven't printed it out, but they've got some results.
We've got some basic results. The targets are very difficult here today, and we've found a couple of possible linears. One is actually just over here, see, by the ranging pole, John's just coming up to, and it goes all the way down to the corner of the grid.
Well, that's the wrong angle, isn't it,
Exactly.
really, for what we want?
It's the strongest anomaly that we've actually got.
Yeah.
But we have got another weaker anomaly going along here, but it appears to coincide with the vegetation.
What
do
you mean?
Vegetation change.
Well, there's all these nettles that are showing up. Presumably that's an indication of the soil type.
It could be caused by cleaning out the ditches.
Yeah, they grow where the ground's been disturbed, don't they?
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? We can't just wait for more and more results before we dig a trench.
We've got to get a trench somewhere across here. If we go out about sort of, 10 metres, a couple of metres wide.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be very wide.
And if we hit it fine, we can widen the trench. And if we don't, we can just go on a bit further out into the field.
You're so gung-ho about this trench. We have never once found anything in the first trench that we've dug in time.
Well, let's get on with it then. Let's not find it, and then we can carry on.
All right.
So let's get the diggers in. They've had their coffee. Look.
Diggers! Despite modern drainage, the peat soil's too soft and wet to bring in heavy mechanical diggers, which means that all our trenches this weekend will have to be dug by hand.
History Hit is like Netflix, just for history fans. With exclusive history documentaries covering some of the most famous people and events in history, just for you. Our extensive catalogue of documentaries covers everything from the rise of Hannibal Barca to the illustrious treasures of King Tut. So sign up today for broadcast quality documentaries uncovering the mysteries of the ancient world. Not only that, but we have a huge podcast network releasing new episodes every day, so you'll always have something to listen to. Sign up now for a 14-day free trial, and Odyssey fans get 50% off their first 3 months. Just be sure to use the code Odyssey at checkout.
How old would this track have been?
Well, it could be anything back to the Neolithic 4000 BC. The oldest one we know about is the Sweet Track, which is 3807 to 3806 BC.
How can you be so absurdly precise?
It's amazing date. I mean, it's the Dendrochronology from the tree rings that gives
Oh, this is
us that.
drilling a little core
Yeah,
in
yeah.
and then counting it with computers.
Yeah, seeing the pattern of the rings, and they go on being built in the Bronze Age and right up to the Iron Age. The reason I brought you up here is if you look back across over there, you see the way this soil, which is very sandy here. Look, it's amazingly sort of not exactly like good garden soil, but it's
completely different to that black.
It
below,
gets black
isn't it?
down there, and if you look across, we're actually looking across the valley at the narrowest bit, and you see you're onto peat down the bottom here, which would have been waterlogged. And that's why the trackways are preserved, because the bacteria and everything else has never rotted the wood down. So it's like pickled in peat.
So high ground here, high ground over there, real bog in between.
And so they're having to build a reinforced pathway, in effect, to get across.
And the contemporary road that we've got today, which is only just about 50 yards further on, is the contemporary echo of the road that would have been created 5,000–6,000 years ago. The geophysics survey is now ready to look at, but the evidence for a trackway is very slight.
With the old Eye of Faith, can you see a depression running through there? It's not clear.
It's definitely very subtle, yeah.
The problem we've got is identifying the trackway in the data. It's not like a solid wall.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a black and white line. It's a trackway made up of solid pieces of timber, some of which may be missing. It's an incomplete structure, so the data can't possibly give us a solid picture.
Trying to find a trackway with geophysics hadn't been done before, and we thought it was worth a try. But clearly now, the geophysics team will do better to look for evidence of the people who built the trackway, up here in Hobbs Field on the higher ground. Meanwhile, Karenza's been looking at aerial photos of the area.
That's brilliant, actually. That's really nice, because this is all flooded. All this black here is water, and this is this.
So this is where it might have run from?
Yeah, it's heading straight towards that, and this is Hobbs Field, but it actually looks like an island there. You can see the sort of standing water all around the north side of it, where the trackway hits it. When was this? Back in 1945.
Tony, come and have a look.
We got something?
Yeah. And in trench 1, 2.
I'm not have to eat my words.
Absolutely.
Oh, what's
Look
this?
at that. Well, this is the timber here, look, sticking up. And that bit's just a flake off the top of it.
Can I get in the trench?
Yeah. Come in, it's big enough.
Well, now, how do you know that that is not just some old bit of log?
We don't.
No, but I mean, the fact is it's diving straight down. It's unlikely to be driftwood or anything like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it don't look as though it's root shaped, does it?
No,
I mean,
it
it looks like
it's a plank,
it's
doesn't it?
actually a
Plank like
shaped
that.
timber.
Yeah.
And it is, it's diving right down in.
But this wood, it's really spongy.
Yeah.
Would it really have lasted thousands of years?
Well,
But you see it when you
see the water coming out of that. Look.
Yeah.
Tony, look at it down further though. That bit has come off the top here. That's where it's really spongy. Hear it? Can you hear it?
Oh, that's good.
That's firm.
That bodes well for a date as well, doesn't it?
That's probably oak, yeah.
If it's full of rings like that and it's hard
I mean,
like
and
that.
you know, that is well preserved. You can feel that. And it's a solid timber.
I can't believe it. It looks like we've found the trackway with our first trench. But what does a prehistoric trackway look like?
That's based on the 1926,
Right.
what we know of the
From the
thing.
timbers, yeah.
Does it really have been that narrow?
Yeah, even narrower perhaps.
Well, some of them were on the Sweet Track. Show you the Sweet Track reconstruction. Look, it's just a plank walkway. So it could have been like that. No doubt why it shouldn't. After all, it's only got to get you across the marsh.
Yeah.
Right, what have we got?
Can I have your opinion on some things that are sticking out here, Dan? Can you see this?
Oh yeah,
bits of
the wood
timber
sticking
sticking out there, and then there's another. You can see bits of it poking through. It looks as if there's something laid that way, and the alignment looks reasonable because it's heading towards that. If that is alignment, it's heading towards the trench over there, and it could be the alignment that we're looking for.
Yep, it could be. You certainly do get a lot of natural fen wood in the peat around here, and we'll just have to clean up the edge of this section to see one way or another.
Right.
We do have some clues to the age of the trackway. Bronze Age burial mounds have been found nearby on the higher ground. And this bone tool, which is thought to be Iron Age, was found in the 1920s, almost exactly where we're digging. Also, these pieces of Iron Age pottery were found in the field next door, which means that the impressive timbers we're now uncovering in Trench 1 could date anywhere between 2300 BC and 43 AD.
And we've got this piece, you see. To point it out, Richard,
this one here.
It looks like a plank fragment. It's had a mortise hole cut in it. They've got more fragments of planking up here, those two.
So there's no doubt that this is part of a prehistoric trackway now?
It looks like it. I mean, we're getting uprights here, so it looks like it is within the structure, although what part of the structure it is, can't be sure yet.
Well, it all looks rather spread at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah.
With a lot of, planks at different angles. It almost looks like one of those sort of great masses of timber put at the end of a track where you're coming up to the higher land.
Well,
like a platform, isn't it, they found in the past.
The other thing is we might not have it might not be as simple as it's reported in the 1920s excavation.
Yeah.
It might be a more complex structure, which might not just be a trackway.
You're being cagey. I don't understand what else it could be.
Well, we do know of other prehistoric sites that had lots of piles and lots of wood associated with them, but weren't necessarily just trackways like Flag Fen.
Yeah.
And what was that?
Well, ritual is always the explanation.
Oh,
back on that again.
I wonder. I thought Richard was being a bit shifty.
Yeah. Well, there it looked as if there was an awful lot of metal objects in a sort of shallow, sort of pool, lake or whatever, and it was like as if they'd gone out to this platform and thrown this stuff off the end. There was so much of it, which you might do if you were interested in water deities or something like that. You were making offerings of material to them. Now, we've never had anything like that in this area, but it's a very watery environment, so there's no reason why we shouldn't. I mean, that's a fantastic collection of wood.
And we've got more than a road, we've got a mystery.
Oh, I mean, this is going to be a job to unpick this, Richard, isn't it, to really sort it out.
Is.
Right, I think that's in.
What's important is that it's not just the wood that's preserved in the peat, but the environmental evidence too. Any seeds, pollen and beetles found in the soil around the structure should allow us to build up a detailed picture of how the landscape looked thousands of years ago.
And this ain't modern roots, you reckon?
No, that's definitely
That's
prehistoric,
just all fossil.
prehistoric reed, still preserved.
Well, you can still bend it, can't you?
Elsewhere on site, progress is less exciting.
I've been looking at this high ground up here to see if there's any evidence of settlement. There's lots of earthworks, but most of them are associated with a farmstead we didn't know about that presumably is post-medieval, and this plough patterns, rich and furrow, that sort of thing. But I can't see anything directly related to the settlement or a trackway.
Which is probably just as well, because we've got more than enough in Trench 1.
Go on, Phil, what you doing? What you got?
Pot. Look at that. Just dropped out of the section, didn't it?
Bloody hell, that's like the Iron Age
That's
stuff there
it.
to the other.
Yeah.
Richard?
Tony?
What?
Around the side, please.
We'll learn him one day. Well, we'll learn
Can't
him
be
one
that
day.
excited and then... what am I looking at?
Look at that.
Pot.
You reckon
Hey.
Probable Iron Age pot.
Now, why do we think this is Iron Age?
No, that's a good question. Because it's grotty and crap and horrible, really, is the answer to that.
And it's not made on a wheel.
And it's
which
not
is,
glazed.
I mean, it's really.
It's not one of the Roman wares. It's probably not coarse enough for Bronze Age, is it?
The nice thing about it is that it's actually come from the level of the timbers.
Yeah.
Whereabouts was it?
Right in the side here. You won't be able to see it from where you are, but right down where my trowel is.
I think it's amazing you should see that coloured pot in that coloured ground. Find some more. Find some more.
That's right, Phil, don't stop there. Ancient wood, prehistoric reed, one little piece of pottery, and...
Get the rest of it, you can have your beer in it tonight, right?
God, is that good or not,
that's
eh?
good. I told you there was more of it.
And that was right next to the first bit?
Yeah.
That's incredible. Well, he might just have busted it looking for it.
No, that's an old break. That's an old break.
Thank you.
Cynic, Robinson.
That's an old break, that.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely rim, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's irregular, like as if it's handmade, you see. Basically just finished off around the top, look like that.
We'll take it back to Sue and Steve, eh?
Yep. Well, hang on, he might find some more yet.
You were expecting me to find it now, ain't you?
Well, we're all poised here, waiting for the rest of it.
Well, go away and poise somewhere else. I mean.
Having cleaned up the pottery for Sue's reconstruction, the team now reckon that this small bowl could be either Iron Age or Bronze Age in date. Although, according to Richard, if our mystery structure does turn out to be Iron Age, then it'll be the first of its kind to have been discovered in the Sommerset levels.
We've been trying to sort out.
Right now, yours, Robin. Here.
Congratulating ourselves on progress today.
It wasn't too bad, was it?
Yeah, it's very good.
We're a bit more enthusiastic, Terry, but once we've actually found our first prehistoric site with environmental evidence on the first day, at the end of the first day, when you're normally feeling depressed.
In trench 1.
Yes, noise technique. Another first of the time, team.
So what are we going to do tomorrow?
Well, we've got to do a lot more work on the wood, of course. I mean, it's not immediately obvious what it is. There's lots of timber in there.
Want to see a larger area of that wood exposed.
Yeah, so bash on with that. But then, the reconstruction.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like itching to get started, really.
Right, so it's the end of day one, possibly the best day one that we've ever had on Time Team. But there's still a long way to go. We don't know which direction this trackway went in, if it is a trackway or maybe it is this ritual platform or a prehistoric turning circle or whatever.
Lay-by.
We'll find more about it tomorrow and we'll watch Phil build his reconstruction. Join us after the break. Congratulations.
Cheers.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers.
Day 2, and a decision has been taken to widen Trench 1 to give us a better look at what we've discovered here. Ironically, the water which helped to preserve the timber is starting to become a problem. While back at base at the garden centre, water is the key element in the process of separating the environmental evidence from the peat.
Got there, Mark?
We have got some bits in it. Got some seeds in here for you as well.
Looks like a sedge there.
Right, okay.
On show next door at the Peatmore Visitors Centre is a reconstructed Iron Age village complete with forge. And as I'm planning to get involved in the building of the prehistoric trackway later on, this is just the place to get myself properly equipped for the job by making an Iron Age style axe. Oh, it looks easy to start with. It gets quite knackering after a while.
This time, we'll start to drift the hole through. The principle is that you can pierce through red hot metal with cold metal. Now, if you'll hold that on there. Yep,
I got it.
Let me come round. And this is to drift the hole through in order to make the eye for the handle of the axe head. And as long as this stays fairly cold and the iron is hot, then this will pierce through it.
Out at the site, although we've got a fantastic collection of worked timbers in Trench 1, Our smaller excavation beside the ditch hasn't revealed anything other than natural wood. The plan now is to open up a new trench here, to test the idea that a trackway runs in this direction, possibly linking up with our structure. Meanwhile, the Iron Age axe is shaping up nicely and is almost finished.
Speed is the essence. There you are. Now you're hammering the very edge to put the edge on, do you see? Harder. Right, that's very good. Now turn it over the other way. That's it.
Over at Trench 1, we now have more expertise at work. Rowena Gale, our wood specialist.
That looks like quite a nice piece of roundwood with its bark still in position there.
Well, it'd be interesting to see if that sort of thing was root or was it roundwood.
And Robert Howard, who's looking for a suitable sample for dendro dating. And in Hobbs Field, the nearest high ground to Trench 1, the geophysics results are ready but impossible to see.
Hello there.
Have you got any results up here yet?
Yes, we've done the whole of the plateau here, about 80 metres by 40 metres.
Right. And that's the only other area that isn't quarried away, and it's the closest point to our other trench, isn't it? Because it's only just over there.
That's right, and well, we're actually getting something.
You've actually got something up here.
We can't show you, unfortunately, because there's too much sunlight. You can't see the computer screen.
I can't see the screen.
But take it from me, we've got at least one curving ditch, if not two, and it's possible they're forming an enclosure.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And there appears to be things inside. We've lost
things
at
as
least
in
half
possible
of it.
structures or buildings or something.
Maybe.
Maybe.
No, I won't commit myself too much, but definitely targets for you to go at.
Well, it would be wonderful if we found traces of a prehistoric settlement so close to the structure in Trench 1.
Phil, we're ready to lift this.
But for the moment, all our efforts are going into sorting out the evidence in this trench. And the latest find here is unexpected, to say the least.
It's in remarkably good condition, isn't it? What is it? Which one is it? Humerus, is it? Good Lord. Mick, come and have a look at this.
Bone is something that's rarely found on the Sommerset levels because normally the soil's too acidic for it to survive.
It's a human upper arm. Yeah.
Is it?
Oh yeah. So Caroline tells me.
Well,
she knows her stuff on human bones.
Puts a whole different perspective on it,
God,
doesn't it?
doesn't it?
Because what's that doing? Is there any others? That's the other thing we should ask, isn't
a
it?
piece of rib.
So those ends just been weathered away, do we reckon?
Well, we don't know. When we get them cleaned up, then I mean, if they have been chewed or anything like that.
Caroline, you're quite happy about that, are you? Quite certain about that? The rib as well?
Let's have a look. The size and shape is very human.
Yeah.
Animal bones are usually much wider and thicker and more dense. You can actually feel the difference between a human bone and an animal bone.
And what about with this one?
Yeah, that again, it's longer. The humerus of many animals is more shorter and truncated and far more robust, whereas the human humerus is longer, more elongated.
All right.
But it looks like an adult bone, and you can also say what side it's from. It's from just here.
Yeah.
All right. Can you tell which side of the body that one comes from?
Yes, this is from the right side of the body.
How do you know?
By this groove that goes at the bottom of the rib and also towards the back.
So they're both from the same side of the body.
Ah,
So they could be off the same carcass.
Makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder if it isn't the top bit of somebody being put in, doesn't it?
Chris and John have now printed out the geophysics results for Hobbs Field.
We've got a few things definitely coming through, haven't we?
There's a clear curving ditch.
Yeah.
The question is, does it join with this one? And there's definitely a second ditch curving here.
But that's in amongst the
But
disturbance.
we're in the badger set,
Yeah.
so it could be that we're seeing some of the tunnels.
Mick?
Yeah?
Come and have a look at this.
Oh, crikey, a plank.
A really big plank and another bit of bone sticking out.
Oh, crikey, yeah. What's that then? Look, there's another...
Another bone.
There's another bone at the end.
And this is very clayey just here.
Yeah.
It's quite-
And that does look like a real good plank, doesn't it? Good
That's a nice
Lord.
one.
Looks oak too.
We want something big like that, don't we, for a date, don't we?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
We're into a whole different ball game with this now, aren't we?
Caroline. What have we got?
Have a look at that on the end there.
Have another look down there.
I think probably.
Oh.
Oh, fab.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a clavicle.
It is, isn't it?
Yes, somebody's shown.
Which side of the body?
Right.
Right?
Okay, so we've got a clavicle, a rib, and a humerus, all on the right side.
Right side.
Right, okay. Put it back because we have to record that.
It.
Although it's hard to leave Trench 1 for fear of missing something, we need to start work on making our own planks to build our reconstruction trackway across this marsh. But before that, we've got a lot of hard work ahead of us.
You've got an accent, Tony, I see. On the lender hand.
Well, this is a noble tree, isn't it?
It certainly is a bit of a beast, isn't it? It's an oak, about 200 years old. 4 inches.
The first job, cutting the bark off, gives me a chance to try out my Iron Age axe.
What's the axe like, Tony?
It's very good. I didn't realise it would be anywhere near as sharp as this. What we're going to try to do is to split this oak into planks using nothing more than a mallet and a series of wooden wedges.
This is a traditional way of splitting timber like this oak, which has been used from the Neolithic through to the present time, really, mate.
Oh,
you can see it probably going along there, but certainly at the end here, we're opening right the way out.
Yeah.
And we just got to make sure it keeps running straight to the centre.
Yes.
That's enough of that one a minute.
It's quite scary when you hear it go. You know you don't want it to go too far. The technique's simple enough, but the task itself requires more than just patience and brute force. The skill in achieving a decent-sized plank is in deciding when to follow the natural grain in the wood.
Shot.
Yes!
That looks
Okay,
good.
not too hard, mate.
I'm worried about it's really
it's
coming
gone.
through.
Yeah, it's gone there.
They must have
A
had
bit
problems like this.
Oh, yes.
You
yeah.
know, I mean, there's
There's
the
nothing
nature
you
of the
can do about
material, isn't it?
Started well though, didn't it?
You gonna go? Yep.
We'll try for the real thing.
That was good practice. That was a practice.
We've now got another trench underway, investigating one of the possible settlement ditches suggested by geophysics up here in the sandy soils of the higher ground. And appropriately at the garden centre, we now have a small army of environmentalists working to provide us with a picture of the prehistoric landscape around the structure in Trench 1.
This piece is, again, in horrible condition. You can see it's how soft
squidgy,
that
isn't it?
is. Yes, full of holes. Very rotten. But that's nice because it's got its bark in situ there.
Yes.
And you can see it's sort of slightly
Still
silvery
shiny,
almost.
yes.
Yes, that's right. And I think that's probably a bit of hazel.
Oh, right, yes. That's a slightly drier species.
Yes, that's right. So that's not such wetland wood. So that's looking as if either wood was brought in or there were drier areas fairly close at hand. This piece up here is a piece of, it's from a larger piece, and it's oak heartwood.
Oh, that's an even drier species.
Absolutely,
isn't it?
yes.
So does this sort of variety of species that we're getting fit with what's coming from the pollen, as far as you can tell, Heather?
Yes, it does. We've still got quite a long way to go with the pollen, and it's not in the best state of preservation that we would like. One thing we have just found, which is quite nice, we've got some water lily pollen.
Oh, lovely.
And this sample is from just above the structure.
Right, so that's open water. I mean, that would be growing in a pool, wouldn't
Should
it?
be.
Have you got
It's
it? Have a
there.
look.
Have a look. It's nice and spiky.
Oh, yes, I see the round sort of red one with the little spines on the outside.
Yes, it's very distinctive.
Goodness. That's
on the
really
surface.
interesting. So we're actually building up a picture of a bit dry land nearby with an oak trees growing on it, blackthorn, a few open pools of water, maybe willow trees around the edge, water lilies growing in the open pools.
Looks like it.
And our structure somewhere in the middle.
I don't think we've ever had such a wealth of evidence in one trench. Environmental finds, worked timber, and now human bone too. Everyone, I think, now agrees that we're dealing with more than just a trackway across the marsh.
It's a nice view of it, actually.
That's
isn't
wonderful,
it? I
that's
think it's,
fantastic, isn't it? But there's no obvious alignment.
There's
in
not,
our
is there? I was
timbers,
just
is
thinking
there?
that, trying to see if it worked out a
Yeah.
trackway. It doesn't seem
It's
to.
not, does it? No.
One theory is that it could be a burial platform.
They had a similar burial practice in Florida, the Native Americans in Florida, and the sketches of that show sort of rows, basically, of bodies. There's going to be some recent ones, some that have been there for 6 months, some fall into pieces.
In Loxley Wood, the quest continues for the perfect plank.
Okay, that's fine then.
You want to cut through here?
Yeah.
Hang on, done this. That's got him. Done.
There you go.
That's actually not a bad plank.
No,
all said
that's a
and
bit
done.
better than the first one, isn't it?
Well,
Good.
you've got quite a width.
Couple of metres.
Is it completely away?
God, it's all there, isn't it?
We need to just hack off that.
Yeah.
Oh, he's all right.
I mean, I'm wondering about how the hell do we walk across marshy ground carrying this damn great lump of timber?
Very carefully.
There you go.
Time now to see if we found evidence of the settlement ditches suggested by the geophysics.
What you got then, chaps?
I think it's, we've got an edge on that side,
Yeah.
an edge on this side, and this very silty sand in the centre, which could be the feature that they picked up on the geophysical, but it could also be a natural feature.
Right.
Because we're not getting any charcoal or any fines in that.
Not
in
at
that
all.
silty deposit.
There's a few bits stuck in here, isn't it? I think they've been using this stuff as
Yeah.
roofing tar.
Yeah, it looks like a roofing
Nail
tar
hole.
with a nail in there.
So, only evidence of a medieval farmstead here in Hobbs Field, and no sign of anything prehistoric.
I think my inclination would be to not do any more and to concentrate down on the main site, which I think we need to put more work into. Over.
Positively musical, isn't it, eh?
The light's fading fast, and we still have to cut points onto these timbers ready for tomorrow. As an experiment, we're each using axes from different periods. A flint axe, a bronze axe, and my iron axe made earlier today. Each of them leave distinctive cut marks on the wood, which is one way archaeologists can identify work timber found in their trenches.
Look at this flint one. I mean, you can see the wood is just so much more, I don't know, it's so torn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's almost concave
There's a
too,
very
isn't it?
concave surface, but so you've got a very concave surface with the bronze one, but the cut marks are just so much more distinct.
Yeah, you can see each individual one.
But nowhere near as distinct as what you got with the iron axe,
Yeah, not as-
which is a lot flatter surface too.
Yeah. Right,
See, there's
come
a
on.
difference there.
Let's get going. It's certainly going to be a learning exercise when we try and build this tomorrow. Already, just watching a mortise hole being cut, I can see how similar it looks to this bit of timber coming out of Trench 1. Meanwhile, Robert Howard, our dendrochronologist, has chosen his samples of wood for dendro dating. He needs to get these back to the lab tonight if he's going to have a chance of phoning through the results before the end of tomorrow.
Well, that's looking good.
Yeah, that's a good sample. It's got quite a few rings on it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a off radius.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Yeah,
not
the
quite-
centre is down here somewhere.
Yeah.
But it looks quite tight, so that means that there's a good prospect for getting a date on that.
Well, fingers crossed.
Whether the date turns out to be Iron Age or Bronze Age, we do know that the people who built it would have lived in a round house similar to this, and inside, it's the perfect setting to discuss the structure in Trench 1.
I've been looking through the textbooks, and for example, there's an example in Florida of a raised platform above water with bodies on it. But I think, you know, what makes me slightly uneasy is that it's a unique site. We don't have anything else like it in this part of the world, in the levels.
Do we have anything like it in England?
Well, not as
No,
far as I can
we've
see.
assumed
So
they existed because we don't find the bodies anywhere else.
both Gray and Bully clearly saw something which they interpreted as a trackway.
What we don't know is exactly how their very brief record of what they saw in the 1920s tallies with what was actually there. in the 1920s.
Yeah. True.
I mean,
Well,
having given us a very detailed record, they've mentioned planks and they've mentioned uprights, and we've got bits of plank and we've got uprights. So
They're assuming it was a track. We're
they're
saying
assuming
maybe
it's
it's
a
not.
track, partly because a track was thought to exist in that area.
So, end of day 2. Join us for day 3 when we're going to see the most audacious reconstruction that we've tried yet. Plenty to do on day 3. What have we got?
We've got to look for the continuation of the trackway in the north. We've got all the environmental stuff to continue to sort out, and hopefully we're going to get the date from the Dendro from Rob in Sheffield.
So we might have a site of national importance, or we might be totally barking up the wrong tree. Hopefully we'll find out tomorrow. Day 3, and the hunt's on for more evidence that this could be a burial platform, although we haven't given up on the idea that there may be a trackway associated with this structure. The theory that a trackway crossed the marsh here was based on timbers found in 2 locations, here where we're digging, and over here on the edge of the King's Sedgemoor drain. Stuart has been looking in the edges of this huge ditch and has found some timbers which could be part of the original evidence for the trackway.
I think that's what we need to do in here.
Yeah.
Just have a quick clean up of the edge section.
Well, this and the other one further down.
Definitely, yeah.
The other's got more timbers exposed, hasn't it?
Yeah, the other one might be a bit more interesting, but as you can see, we've got tree stumps coming out here, so...
I mean, that's just one log as far as we can see, isn't it?
Yeah. A lot of this material could just be roots, but we really need to give it a clean up in all the areas Stuart's looked at to see what's there.
Hello, Robert.
Hello.
It's Tony. The first excitement of the day now, because Robert's called from the Dendro lab and has got news about one of the wood samples taken from Trench 1.
Along one edge, the thick edge.
A groove around one edge.
And it looks like a piece of tongue and groove boarding.
It looks like a piece of tongue and groove boarding.
Yeah, that's going to be like that.
Dates as yet,
He hasn't got any idea of dates yet, though.
but no dating until this afternoon, after lunch, I would have thought.
OK, thanks a lot.
But Tony, what I suggest Richard does is excavate downward through that timber and see whether this groove continues.
This is the upright timber Robert's talking about, timber number 11. And Jenny's already started looking for signs of the tongue and grooving, which could indicate that this bit of wood has been deliberately shaped for a purpose. While over at the Nature Reserve, the time's come to test the construction methods that would have been used to build a wood structure across a marsh in prehistoric times.
It may be that these mortise holes, which are quite low down, were just used to help drive the piles in, but we can find out.
What sort of width are we going for on poles?
They mention the piles being 4 foot apart.
I thought that's what you reckon,
in their 1920s excavation. So I think if we go for that, really.
Victor's drawing, based on the evidence found in 1926, is the blueprint for this experiment, which is clearly going to be a question of trial and error.
We've got to get it the right way round too, to get the mortise round the outside.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Cool. Can we? Oh. That ain't gonna go.
No, that ain't down, is it?
Oh,
It's going.
Is it permanent at all, or is it doing anything at all, is it?
I think the problem is they're really fat at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're roughly pointed. I mean, the only other solution around it is to split some in half and just use the half, one good half. And
Well, that's what I think is a good reason for splitting them. I would have thought they're a lot more slender.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jenny, is there any sign of any tongue and grooving on that?
There's a slight groove down this side, and each end's definitely angled, but it needs cleaning up a lot, I think.
It doesn't feel as if it's been carved or shaped at all. Sort of.
No, although the sides are definitely cut at an angle.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot wider, isn't it, than when Robert took the sample off the top?
Yeah, it was just at the bit that was sticking out, sort of the broken off bit. So yeah, it's much wider at the bottom.
And is there anything with it in the hole?
There are lots of sort of little fragments of wood in the soil and the water, so we've kept a bag for...
Right, in case there might be
environmental
shavings or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Is there any possibility of us taking it out and having a look at it?
It seems to be going down a long way, so I think we just have to keep digging and see how far it goes.
OK, well, better leave you playing in the mud, hadn't we?
Yeah.
Till you get on a bit further.
The water may make it more difficult to excavate, but we certainly wouldn't have got such good evidence without it. And back at the garden centre, we've got an emerging environmental picture which is rich in detail. The pollen analysis, for instance, has not only identified specific tree types...
See that one there? That's willow.
Yes. Oh, goodness.
So this is the willow.
But we've also found evidence of plants associated with disturbed ground, suggesting that there was pasture or settlement not far away.
It's like a golf ball.
It does. Looks just like a golf ball. Those are all tiny little pores which we can focus in and out on.
What is that?
It's a family goosefoot which has all sorts of different herbs in it. It's associated with, again, these fields, disturbed ground.
Are these black bits the charcoal?
Yes, there's a nice big bit of charcoal there. Let's bring it up. So that would have blown in. It's only very tiny.
Oh, right, sort of from smoke from the fires that were up in the air.
Something like that.
Could they have come in from some distance, or do you think that suggests there's a fire quite close?
It could have come a distance. It's
Right,
difficult to put a distance
Nearby
on
settlements,
it.
perhaps.
Yes, yes.
What's important is that all the environmental evidence seems to paint the same picture, and crucially, that includes species of beetle, which confirm that the structure in Trench 1 was surrounded by large pools of water.
The big bright
Oh, gosh,
blue
yeah.
metallic one is indicative of open water.
Oh, yes, the iridescent one.
Yeah, and if you move further down, I'll try and shift them across for you. These species here are towards the water's edge, where it starts to get quite well vegetated.
Oh, yes, yeah. And of course, the beetles wouldn't have gone as far, would they? They're much, presumably, they're not blowing around like the pollen is, so they're giving us a better idea of the environment very close to our site.
Generally, there are some species which do fly very well and end up dropping in by mistake and dying and becoming incorporated, but overall they're much more indicative of the local environment.
So we can be quite confident that close to our site we've got open water and water's edge and dry land.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Which means that the conditions our track builders are working in today are in fact very similar to those faced by woodworkers in the Sommerset levels thousands of years ago.
Without the aid of a safety net. Stilt walker.
That's doing well.
It's going in, isn't it?
Yeah, that's going down.
Right, it's kind of bouncing.
But it's bouncing though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
He's a daring young man on the flying trapeze.
While work goes on to clean up the timbers at the King Sedgemoor drain, and we wait to see more evidence of Timber 11, the big challenge for today in Trench 1 is to record the evidence found so far and to try and make sense of it. Could this be the remains of a burial platform? Well, we've found another rib, which now gives us a total of 4 human bones, and we've also found 2 sheep jaw bones to add to the puzzle. However, we've got these 5 upright timbers which seem to be in a line rather than supporting a platform. But my turn to get involved with the track making, which is going well now that they're splitting the piles to make them thinner. Each lesson learned is making progress quicker, such as making a smaller hole first before trying to push the pile in.
There you go, look, there's another lesson.
What?
Creating these woodworking chips on site.
Oh, and Jenny just found a load of little chips down in the bottom of one of the planks.
Oh, there you go, there it is happening, look.
Right, now what we want you to do now, Tony, is stand on this bit, if you could, hold the top and jump up and down, please. That's the technique.
Serious?
Yeah, this is the technique.
If I fall off, this isn't a wind-up.
No. Not at all.
God, how do I get
As if we do.
And just jump up and down?
Just jump up and down.
No, in my weight, it's not going to make any difference.
It's going.
It is going.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
He doesn't look that heavy though, does he?
No, he don't. Oh, it might look crude.
I'd be more impressed if the water hadn't gone down the insides of my waders. At the King's Sedgemoor Drain, what we need is the local archaeologists' help. Could this be part of a trackway?
This may be roots. See where it's come off branching into here and right
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah. So the fact that it's all rounded, you know, I was right to be a bit suspicious about it.
Well, when we were looking further down the bank, we saw lots of stumps of
Yeah.
trees in the bank of the river.
Yeah, yeah.
But just because we've probably got some large roots coming in here doesn't mean it's all natural necessarily.
Right.
Well, given that what we've got seems to be very ambiguous, we're going to concentrate on Trench 1, which is clearly requiring a new style of excavation.
It feels like it was coming to the point on one side, but we've got I think it's tapering off on this side.
So why can't we just pull this out?
You've got to really uncover it virtually all the way down, because if it's cut to a point, the point will just break off.
Yeah,
because there's a hell of a lot of suction.
Because it's actually not as strong as it looks, is it? It's actually...
Well, it's mostly water, this bit of wood, if you think about it, so it hasn't got a lot of strength left in it. It's very bizarre.
Yeah.
Well, at the bottom, there's about that much left at the tip, so we're almost right at the very tip of it. So we've almost got it freed on this side, and once we've got it freed on this side, we'll just gently work round the other side, and then hopefully it should come free.
Done.
You come for the event then, Tony?
Yeah. Ooh, that's good, isn't it?
We're just about to lift it. Right, we're going to need a bit of room here very soon.
Right.
You ready?
Yeah, yeah.
Right, let's go.
Okay, it's coming up.
Careful with your head.
Okay. Richard.
Got it.
Okay, are we
Slow.
get vertical?
Yeah, keep it vertical for the moment.
Okay, you two got
Right,
it.
gradually tilting
No,
it.
no.
Ange, do you
Don't
want to
keep
get up?
your hand underneath.
Go and get in the middle a bit, Ange.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gradually keep coming it.
Up. Which way up? Towards me.
No, leave it like this.
Oh, like
That's
that.
it, that's it. Right. And down. Is this fizzy water? The sizzling noise as I poured it on the wood is a bit disturbing.
Is that bent end there where they've knocked it in?
Yeah,
it looks,
it looks like it's cut to a point.
Just like Phil and I were doing this morning. If you rub your finger up and down, you can actually feel the facets that were made by the tool that worked it.
And different axe marks, aren't they?
So,
on the side.
so what's this tongue and groove business?
Rob was talking about the top.
Oh, that's
He thought
right,
There's a groove in one side, but
there's no evidence of it, is there, as far as we can see here?
It is very much like the kind of thing that we were working on this morning, and Phil sort of came to the conclusion that this shape was the best shape for the piles to be in. And we're now ready to test that theory by taking a walk across the marsh.
Well, it's keeping my feet dry.
I reckon that's a
Good
good
job,
job.
well done, that is. It works.
Well, what do you think then, gentlemen?
I think it's brilliant.
All right.
I think we can be rightly proud of ourselves over this.
Well, I think we've achieved what we set out to do.
Well, it probably don't look much, but it's functional.
Well, when you think how far we've got in a day.
And that's starting from scratch.
Yep.
And we've learned a lot.
What we're desperate to know now is, how old is the structure in Trench 1?
8, 3, 7.
Has Robert managed to get a Dendro date from the wood samples he took yesterday?
Have you got anything to tell us?
Yes, I have. Well, I've got dates for all three.
You've got dates for all three?
Yeah.
Great. We are all waiting here, absolutely agog.
The structure date, I think you're looking at a date of around about, let's say, 900 BC.
Felling date of 900 BC.
Yeah, which is Bronze Age.
Which is Bronze Age, late Bronze Age.
All right.
There's a lot of excitement here, Robert, about that.
Well, I think so too.
So the puzzle in this trench isn't Iron Age, but late Bronze Age, which means that the worked timbers we've unearthed are an incredible 3,000 years old. But what kind of structure was it? Well, one theory we've discussed was that it could have been a burial platform. Could it be the burial structure that we thought with the old bodies on and the bones dropping through into the...
Could be. You know, I'd have expected more bones, I think, myself, but we've still got to explain why they're there. I mean, you know, they may have existed elsewhere, but here we've actually got them on the wood.
In fact, we don't have the number of uprights needed to support a platform. What we have is more of a line of posts, and this does suggest another intriguing possibility. Was this a ritual boundary dividing off the settlement, where parts of skeletons were deposited after having been previously laid out to decompose by the edge of the water? This would explain why so few bones were discovered. An example of a boundary like this was found at Flag Fen near Peterborough, on which we've based this reconstruction. So what we've got is evidence of a late Bronze Age structure which is very different in its construction from anything found in the Sommerset levels before. In fact, I think the local archaeologists are secretly excited that they might have another Flag Fen on their hands. But just at the moment, everyone's enjoying the more practical achievements of the weekend. I never thought you would get this much done. I really didn't. When I left, what, 4 hours ago, you only got 4 stakes in.
Yeah, but that's the learning curve, Tony. That is it.
Well, that's why it bends to the left.
It's been hard work then. We had a much easier time doing it on the computer screen, I can tell you.
Yeah,
That's
and I bet yours looks really, really pristine, all nice, neat little rectangular corners and what have you.
Phil, what did you learn?
Well, we learned just how stupid we looked at the beginning, I'll tell you that. I mean, when we tried to get that big post into the ground, the first one, and I don't know, just that preconceived blueprint, which doesn't work.
What do you think of it, Richard? Because you sketched it out, didn't you?
Yeah, I can understand why there are human remains at the edge of it now.